At the same time, we even in those few years, we saw all the older kids, when they left the high school, there was no work and no further training, so they disappeared year after year. Just so for this region to grow, it had to find more business that didn't rely just on, say, farming, and training for young people. So I eventually worked with TAFE in Margaret River down here, and that went from a room in a storage shed to now they've got their own college. So it's sort of really, I can see these sort of little stepping stones where you know, you start off poor and the whole thing just expands. Basically, the arts people don't always get a mention. I mean, I was reading recently a brief history of that time for the vineyards, and there's not one word of anything else except these, pioneered the area. Well, that's true, but that was only one. There was this other side to it as well, and it worked really well. I mean, Sandra Pannell from Mosswood, she ended up sending her guests, or their guests, through my studio. So that helped us make a sale or two. And it also introduced their friends and visitors to looking at the area quite differently, So that's where we are. Now, at the same time, there are people in the community sort of pulling away all the time. So it just showed that there's this potential, for so much to happen here. And I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but because there are plenty of them. And the young people in Busselton were considered to be a nuisance, and because Busselton was an old town full of old people who wanted a quiet life, and fair enough, but they hindered everything, trying to get that Yoggannut playground. We had to go through 3 other sites where you'd get one person who just, there'll be needles in the drugs and blah, 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 blah. And so we'd have to move to somewhere else. It was just, and so when we did get Yoggannut, I mean, that went for years, and I never saw it empty. No matter what day it was, that park had children and people in it. So I think in some ways, not that I knew it at the time, but that really the biggest role for an arts council and an arts centre was not to promote the arts to interested people, but to fight the negative aspect in a society, to push it back, so to allow something to happen. And obviously it's still happening, which is fantastic. I think the beachfront epitomises it now, is that back in those days, if the young wanted a skate park, they were sent. That no one wanted a skate park in the town. Push them on. There's teenagers making noise. The this whole attitude, I think, is from the Shire, has changed, and that to me is a big change. That once the Shire was either indifferent or reluctant, that what's happened there is professional. It is totally, whether you love it or whatever, but it is a professional, probably one of the best beachfronts in the country. Their combination of the arts as well as the play and tourist thing is a huge step. So, and we found that the combined arts were now a multi-million-dollar industry in the southwest. When I was painting here, it was the coast, there was young people who basically were the energy of the area, and for instance, initially young people just played games in the jetty shop or jumped off the jetty and went fishing, but didn't surf. And then as surfing became another thread in this area, and a lot of the surfies wanting to stay here became craftspeople working in wood and furniture and glass and you name it. That introduced the local kids to trying surfing and beyond. And again, surfing, surfers also are chasing gold, the holy grail, the perfect wave, so it's just something that reoccurs all the way through, but has an impact in our society, in many ways. So.